Charles Leclerc has been pretty transparent about Ferrari's strategies over the past couple of seasons. Red Bull, of course, has done a pretty good job, and Leclerc thinks Ferrari needs to reevaluate its strategy if it wants to do well in F1 next year. On that note, let's learn more about how Ferrari cannot ignore the triggers of mid-season F1 slump. We'll also look at the possible candidates to lead the Scuderia after Binotto. To start with, there are some things Ferrari needs to take care of. Leclerc took advantage of Ferrari's good start to the 2022 season by winning 2 of the first 3 races.
Let's go! Let's go! Come on! That's exactly how we should start a season. Come on! 1-2, baby! 1-2! Yeah!
Will be in Jeddah in 7 days' time for more racing. Ferrari go into it with a perfect start to the new season. Win, second place, fastest lap, and all the smiles belong to the Scuderia tonight.
But Red Bull's comeback, problems with reliability and strategy at Maranello, and driver mistakes all put an end to Ferrari's title hopes. All of this is getting more attention after the Scuderia announced on Tuesday that team boss Mattia Binotto would be leaving at the end of the year. Max Verstappen won the World Championship, but Leclerc still squeezed his way into second. When he thought back on the season, he said that the fact that Ferrari had made progress with the speed of its car was a good sign, especially by the end of the year, but he knew the team needed to pay close attention to the problems it had in the middle of the season. Still, he did acknowledge how far they've come since last year, and overall, it's been an amazing step forward for him. Coming up, they hope to catch up soon, even though things aren't that bad. Charles Leclerc said he can't ignore the fact that the middle of their season has been very frustrating. The truth is that they were ahead in the championship by a lot of points, but they ended the season really far behind, and for that, for Leclerc, was super frustrating. He thinks all they need to do is learn from their mistakes this year and try to do better next year. Apart from that, he believes that their strategy and how they've been making decisions in the last few races has really improved. It's just that it was a little harder to show because the pace isn't as good as it was at the start of the season. But the Monegasque is confident that they'll be able to catch up to Red Bull next year when it comes to pace. What's more, here's what they need to do to get back on track. Leclerc said that Ferrari needs to focus on 3 key areas next year if it wants to make the progress it needs to make to compete for the championship. These were dependability, strategy, and a better grasp of how to manage tires. From all of these, reliability has been the bigger issue this season, and obviously, they've been paying for it with penalties and engine failures. Charles thinks they made too many mistakes with their strategy at one point in the season, and they haven't been able to keep their tires in good shape. They had a good race at Abu Dhabi, but the bad races can't be forgotten, and the problem in most of them seems to be the fact that they don't know how to manage the tires well. When it comes to strategy, they've been getting better at it, but it's hard to tell because they're not moving as fast as they were at the beginning of the year. What's for sure is that the team's communication and decision-making have gotten better. Lastly, Leclerc takes some responsibility for Ferrari's shortcomings. The 25-year-old also made it clear that he was not completely innocent because he also made some mistakes this season, and that, combined with Ferrari's slump, cost them a bunch of race wins. According to him, he could have pushed less in some situations, and an example of this was his performance in France. But he also thinks that for the past few years, he's been focused on one area in particular because he knew it was one of his weak points. Now that he's been in Formula 1 for a few years, he believes it's more about getting the details right and giving it his all as often as he can. So as far as he's concerned, he knows the stuff he needs to focus on for the next year, and he's sure as long as he's constantly working on himself, things will turn out well. And now, let's look at candidates who will lead the Ferrari F1 team after Binotto. First up, Fred Vasseur. Charles Leclerc is definitely Ferrari's lucky charm, and its best chance for the foreseeable future of winning an F1 Drivers' Championship. Not gonna lie, he still makes mistakes, and he hasn't been destroying Carlos Sainz like he did Sebastian Vettel in 2020, but he's still the clear winner. Since that day in Bahrain, when he was super fast in just his second race for the Scuderia, people have been calling him the chosen one. If Leclerc's faith in Binotto has wavered, it's a big reason to replace him, and despite all of Binotto's obvious qualities, including what everyone seems to agree is genuine friendliness, he hasn't always been the best at dealing with Leclerc. Leclerc has also known Fred Vasseur since he was in karting. We know the Alfa Romeo boss oversaw the Monegasque's run to the GP3 title with ART, and his explosive Ferrari-like rookie season in F1 with Sauber. Ferrari would never say that Vasseur's connection to Leclerc would be the deciding factor in his candidacy, but there has been a clear connection between the two for a long time. And since Vasseur isn't a random random person and has a proven track record as a motorsport team boss. It's especially important to take advantage of this connection. Up next, Ross Brawn. Brawn quit his job with Formula One management and seems ready to end his F1 career. But you never know, he might be tempted to give it one last try. We know he hasn't been at the head of an F1 team since Toto Wolff, Niki Lauda, and Paddy Lowe took over Mercedes in 2013. But still, his foresight has been credited with laying the groundwork for Mercedes to dominate the turbo hybrid era from the start in 2014. Considering the new engine rules are coming in 2026, Ferrari could benefit from this kind of thinking ahead. As the managing director of motorsports for the F1 Championship, Brawn has kept up with what's going on in the sport. So out of all the free agents out there, it's hard to think of anyone who is better or more capable than this man right here. Following up, Andrea Seidel. Ferrari needs an outsider to lead the team, someone who has qualities that Ferrari's management has been trying to bring to the F1 team over the past few years. Andrea Seidel, the current head of McLaren, is probably the best example. He doesn't play games and is refreshingly straightforward. He's also good at protecting his team from the outside and putting things together on the inside. McLaren was always able to get better from its worst point in the late 2010s, but it wasn't a coincidence that the company made big strides after Seidel joined. Even though McLaren hasn't been doing as well in the last year and a half, that isn't his fault. His way of working is exactly what Ferrari needs, and he would bring a welcome new perspective. There are probably people in the Ferrari organization who would love to be in charge of the F1 team, but sometimes you have to look elsewhere. There are rumors in Italy that Ferrari has already tried to get Seidel, but failed. If that's correct, then we're dying to know what his answer was. If Seidel is locked up at McLaren, that's one thing, but if he flat out said no, that says a lot about how Ferrari runs its business. And if Seidel hasn't been thought about at all, then the Scuderia's priorities are all wrong. Finally, what Ferrari should focus on at this point. Ferrari's question is less about who should run the company and more about who it can hire. With the exception of the Jean Todt era, Ferrari has had a policy of changing leaders every few years for decades. So the big question for the Italian outfit is whether it can find the right person among those who are willing to go there. Since Ferrari is a really big name, many people in F1 want to work at Maranello, but when it comes to the reality of the possibility, it will make any possible candidates think twice, especially those who are already in other roles that are a good fit. The thing is, Ferrari must not only choose the right person, but also give them the stability and control they need to make a difference. In turn, that person must not care so much about politics that it interferes with how they make decisions. Even so, the starting price for a Ferrari job is high right now. It is a race-winning team, even though it's lost as many races as it's won in the past year. It also has the facilities, staff, and drivers to win the championship. What Ferrari can't afford is to hire someone who will only lead the team for a short time, and that might also mean that it needs to be patient while it waits for the best candidate to become available. That's a wrap for this video. Who do you think will be Ferrari's new team principal? Let us know in the comments below. Also, be sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more videos like these. Thanks for watching, and we'll see ya in the next one.